Hello everybody, Sticks here at the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I'm bringing you another of the many flavors of Garchomp in a Primal Groudon deck. Let's see if I can click on it. There we go! Primal Groudon. Before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It helps us out a ton. Anyway, on to the video. Like I said, this deck is centered around Primal Groudon EX, 240 HP, absolutely incredibly bulky, Gaia Volcano 100 base, plus 100 more if there is a stadium in play and then you discard the stadium, and with the Omega Barrier ability, whenever your opponent plays a trainer card excluding Pokemon tools and stadium cards, prevent all effects of that card to this Pokemon. So any of those crushing or enhanced hammers, nope. Lysander, anything of that sort does not affect Primal Groudon. It is such a great attacker, so strong, so bulky, with such a great Delta trait, not ability, that you would think, well, what are the drawbacks? Well, unfortunately, forward retreat cost. That's huge. That means you're going to have to almost always use a switching card. You will almost never manually retreat Primal Groudon. So if it's brought active, you need some way of getting it out there. And also, its attack is very expensive. If it was 2 fighting and a DCE, not as bad as 3 fighting and a colorless. So we will have to find some way to accelerate onto Primal Groudon if we want to use it with any speed. And that is where Garchomp comes into handy. From Breakpoint, with the Turbo Assault attack for 1 energy does 60, and you attach an energy card from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. So basically, if you have an energy in the discard pile, slap an energy on Garchomp, even a strong energy, you can accelerate onto Primal Groudon. It is absolutely phenomenal, and Garchomp can win plenty of matches on his own, but if you need just one gigantic attack, then Primal Groudon is excellent for coming in there and just absolutely cleaning up your opponent. We are running a 4-3-4 line of Gible, Gabite, and Garchomp. Normally I run a 4-2-4, but I really found that I like having Gabite more often than not, because just in case you can't get that rare candy or you're under item lock or something, then Gabite can get you all the way to Garchomp. And Garchomp is more than capable, like I said, of winning matches on his own, so you want to have as many of those as possible. You normally only have one Primal Groudon, so that's why I'm only running a 2-2, despite the deck being centered around it. I'm also running 2 Shaman for draw support, and 1 Hawlucha, because Hawlucha is always just amazing to have in any type of fighting deck. Just for free retreat, for hitting an EX hard, for 1 energy, yada yada yada. Onto the items. We have 1 level ball. I'm only running a single level ball because in these type of decks, you use Karina for the main method of getting your fighting Pokemon out. And also, if I only run 1 level ball, I have more chance to run more of other cards. 2 rare candy to get a Gible straight into a Garchomp. If you have a Gible and you have a Karina, well, guess what? You have a Garchomp, because you Karina for the Garchomp and the rare candy, and boom, Gible has suddenly skipped Gabite completely and just evolved straight into Chompinin. We are running 1 Super Rod just in case you overextend yourself a little bit. Actually, I probably should change that to Sacred Ash. I'm not sure why it is Super Rod, so let me fix that right now. Normally I do run Super Rod, so that might just be kind of an oversight on my part, just kind of going into autopilot while creating this deck. But considering you have Garchomp, to accelerate the energy out of the discard pile, you want to use Sacred Ash to get more Pokemon back into the deck. We're running 1 switch, just in case you start with a Groudon or something like that, or your opponent is able to Lysander in your Groudon EX before it evolves into a Primal Groudon. Just get that out of there. 3 Ultra Ball, only 3 because, again, you're using Karina to mostly get your Pokemon, and Ultra Ball you will mainly use to get Shaman more often than not. 4 VS Seeker to reuse everything, 1 AZ just to pick up a Shaman or pick up a Groudon that you had to send active, 3 Karina, because I mean this is an amazing card for any fighting deck. If you are running a fighting deck at all, you are running Karina because it acts as an Ultra Ball for a fighting type and a Skyla in a single card with no discarding. So I mean Karina is just incredible. I mean, if other decks had this type of support, like if Dark had this, I think it would be one of the probably almost broken. But I mean, Karina is just a very, very powerful card for fighting decks. 1 Lysander, because I mean, we love Lysander. Lysander's great for bringing stuff out. If you want to like one-shot a Shaman with a 2 energy Garchomp, then go nuts. You only run 1 because normally Groudon is able to just absolutely destroy things, so you don't really need to worry about fishing around, although having one Lysander is always great, just because, I mean, it is Lysander, and Lysander is phenomenal, like I said. For Sycamore, for the absolute maximum amount of draw support, I mean, that's really it. You don't necessarily want to run cards like Shauna or Birch because you will be left with a smaller hand size, and something like that can definitely hurt you in a deck like this where you just absolutely run through stuff per turn. I mean, there are so many times where I work myself all the way down to one card. I mean, I could potentially run a Maxis, but there's really nothing that I would particularly want to Maxis for, and I feel like it would just be a dead card more often than not because I would rather prefer like a Karina or a Sycamore rather than a Maxis for getting an instant Garchomp and 5 cards. Onto the stadiums, we want to run 4 stadiums because Gaia Volcano functions on discarding a stadium and having it in play, so we're running 3 Fighting Stadium just to boost our Fighting type's damage output, and 1 Silent Lab just to kind of stall for a turn, because I mean, this deck does take a couple turns to get going at full steam. Groudon takes 3 turns at least to power up, and that's with Garchomp accelerating energy onto it. So you need to slow down your opponent a little bit so those super aggro decks don't just immediately take you out. So we're running 1 Silent Lab right there, 2 Focus Sash to allow Garchomp to live hits and be able to accelerate more energy onto Groudon, 2 Groudon Spirit Link, I mean, because we're running 2 Groudon and 2 Primal Groudon. 1 Muscle Band, only 1 because I much prefer Focus Sash in this type of deck. I mean, Muscle Band is just for extra damage output. Absolutely maximum number of Strong Energy because you can just slap those onto Groudon, and if you have 4 Strong Energy on Groudon, well, Primal Groudon, even without a Stadium in play, you're still knocking out EXs, so that is insanely good, and they cannot be discarded with items, so that is phenomenal. And then 8 regular energy. We're running a kind of high number of energy in this deck just because, I mean, Groudon takes so much to power it up, and you want to spread your attachments out over the rest of your Pokemon as well. So you want to run a little bit more energy just to make sure that you are consistently getting off attacks, because if you have to skip a turn with this deck, you're kind of in a little bit of trouble. But anyway, that is the deck, and let's just go ahead and see it in action. Alrighty, we have found one against a water deck. Ew, this could be a little bit of an uphill battle if it's a Greninja Break deck, but you know what? We're just going to go for it anyway. Called Coin Flip Tails, and we don't even go first, so fuck that. Alrighty, we have found one against a Dark and Psychic deck, Star Killer MF. I really don't want to try to think of what the MF stands for, but if they're trying to be really cool like their name suggests, then I'm pretty sure I know what it stands for, but I'm just going to choose to ignore it and play ignorant at this point. And wow, it looks like TCGO is still having trouble with lag and stuff like that, even after 2 sets of updates. I mean, I don't know what was in that huge recent update. Well, I mean, I know what was in it. It was the whole new, whatchamacallit, the whole new, what is it? The bonus wheel. There we go. And the legacy format. But when they implemented those, I mean, everything else just kind of went wrong. And we do win the coin flip, so that is great. But now we have all of this stuff with the deck manager that you saw earlier. We have, okay, so we start with something pretty solid, a Hawlucha and a Gible. That is great, and a Sycamore, so we actually have some draw support. Okay, we are in a solid position. Let's go ahead and play a Fighting Energy onto the Gible. Go ahead and play a Sycamore, hopefully get a Karina or something like that. We get a Fighting Stadium and a Switch. That's not the worst thing in the world, but let's go ahead and I think end the turn right there, sit on our hand, see what our opponent wants to do. If I can get a Rare Candy or a Karina this turn, then I will be in an excellent position. Otherwise, I might just go for a Fighting Stadium and a Strong Energy and a Focus Sash onto the Hawlucha to be able to hit KO the Darkrai in the active spot. So I think we're in a very solid position to start, as it looks like our opponent didn't have anything because he had to Skyla for a Birch's Observation. So let's go ahead and do that. Play the Focus Sash onto the Hawlucha, play the Fighting Strong Energy onto it, play the Fighting Stadium down, go for a Flying Press for 100 damage on the Darkrai, and now we are in a pretty good position if our opponent I mean, either way, we'll be able to knock out this Darkrai next turn because we do have a Lysander. My opponent does go for the All-Night Party, gets rid of our Fighting Stadium. I don't think there's any way he can knock us out this turn. Unless he... Okay, so he could... There is no way our opponent can knock us out this turn, I don't think. I mean, he'd need... Well, I mean, unless he got, like, a Startling Megaphone and a DCE. But if he gets that, then I'll just kind of cry. But, okay, we do see some more Darkrai coming out. We do see the DCE. Do we see the Startling Megaphone? Looks like my opponent's trying to dig for it a little bit. If he finds it, then that is just unfortunate. He grabs the Professor's Letter. And I think we are just going to get hit with a Dark Head this turn. So that's not the worst thing in the world. Because with the Focus Sash, we will be able to survive. And yep, we will be able to survive this turn and be able to knock out the Darkrai. So that is great. We even get a Silent Lab, so what I think I'm going to do is play the energy onto probably the Groudon just to try to start powering it up a little bit. I don't want to use the Lysander yet. Actually, I can do something kind of cheeky next turn. Bring out a Darkrai, play the Silent Lab, and then Oko with my Hawlucha. Well, I mean, there, I have a strong energy, so I will be able to Oko with my Hawlucha next turn if I play the Silent Lab, so that is probably something I am going to go for. Just as kind of a little cheeky play you can do with Hawlucha. We do see regular Dark Energy onto the Darkrai, and a Tierno. That's a curious... So, not sure what exactly my opponent's going for right then, but we do get a Karina. What I am going to do is play the Strong Energy onto the Hawlucha, play the Karina, grab a... No, not a Garchomp, Gabite, another Gabite, and a Rare Candy. There we go. Let's go ahead and Rare Candy up the Gibble on the bench into a Garchomp, play the Gibble right here, go for a Silent Lab to shut off basic Pokemon abilities, and Oko the Darkrai with a super effective Flying Press. So that was... I kind of like doing that. Just, shut off Hawlucha's ability. It's not affected by resistance or... well, it's not affected by resistance or weakness, so I was able to shut that off to where Hawlucha could hit for weakness right there, and our opponent just concedes. Hawlucha was able to one-man his entire Darkrai deck. So, that really didn't get to show off what the deck does, so I will obviously try to find another one, but that's just kind of a cool example of Hawlucha doing a one-man stand against an EX full deck and proving its worth right there, so let's just go ahead and try to find another. Alrighty, we have found another one against a fire deck for Hazard. I normally would be Hazard, but I believe with the accents it's like Hazard. Or either that's how I'm gonna say it. I probably butchered that horribly. But we do win the coin flip, so we do get to go first. Hopefully we start with something decent and not just a bunch of energy. And you know what? I can work with that. I can definitely work with that. Let's go ahead and play the Gibble down. Our opponent doesn't even have any basic Pokemon, so we will get to draw some more cards. I'm kind of wanting a Karina this turn, but obviously I'm not complaining. This is a very great opening hand. I can just like Ultra Ball for a Shaman. Do want to draw another one, grab another Sycamore. Not the biggest deal in the world. What I am going to do is play the Focus Sash onto the Gibble, play the Fighting Energy there, go for an Ultra Ball, get rid of the Sycamore and the Fighting Energy to probably try to grab a Shaman, I think. And this does look like a speed fire deck, so we're going to have to work around that. Focus Sash will come in huge in this game. And okay, we do get a couple more Gibble. That I can definitely work with. Let's go ahead and play the Muscle Band there. Play the Silent Lab will be huge, because my opponent will rely on Shaman for a lot of his draw, and it looks like we have a Shaman too, but it's not that big of a deal because, we don't really need a Shaman because we have a VS Seeker and we have two Gabite, so I think I'm just going to end the turn right there, and let's see what my opponent does. We do have Fighting Stadiums that we can play to counter our opponent's Stadium, so we are in a pretty solid position at this point. Get a Muscle Band onto the Entei. Ooh, 2 Muscle Bands. Oh man, he's going big. But luckily that means he will not be able to have, I guess, he won't be able to have like a Fighting Fury Belt or something like that, or an Assault Vest to reduce damage. We do see him get rid of the Silent Lab, probably got it off of the Acro Bike, so that was a pretty decent bit of luck on my opponent's part. Hopefully he didn't get anything, and we will just be able to like mass evolve this turn with like Gabite, Strong Energy, Fighting Stadium, and then we can even play the Shaman if we want, but I don't think I want to because that's just a Lysander target for our opponent. Do see the Ultra Ball, so that's probably going to grab a Shaman, and yep, that grabs a Shaman, so my opponent will get a fresh hand of 6 cards. I'm hoping he won't be able to get a Blacksmith down this turn. If he does Heat Tackle, then you know what, that is just fine. It'll do damage to himself, and he has no reason to not just go for the, what is it called, Flame Screen. I thought it was Flare Screen for some reason. But he is putting a bunch of Lysander targets for Bite-Offs from our Garchomp on the bench. And okay, so we do survive the first turn guaranteed because our opponent will not be able to put any more energy on the Entei apart from that DCE. So we're in a very solid position right now. Our opponent will have to probably he will have to Blacksmith, meaning that he won't be able to Lysander or anything like that next turn, meaning we will be just fine to, well, I guess this Gabite will be able to live through the next turn. Well, So I am in a little bit of a precarious situation right now. I am not sure whether I want to evolve my Gible, this active Gible, into a Gabite, or whether I want to try to go for the Garchomp this turn with a Karina. So what I think I'm going to immediately do is I get another level ball, so let's go ahead and grab another Gabite, or Gible. They're all the same to me. Let's go ahead and play that down, play this down here, and you know what? I think I am just going to go for broke because it is a live right now. Let's go ahead and play the Strong Energy onto the Muscle Banded Gabite, play the Fighting Stadium down, go for the Shaman, see if we can draw a combination of cards that will allow us to get a Garchomp, and you know what? We do. We get a Karina, which will be able to grab a Garchomp and a Rare Candy, and unfortunately we won't be able to use the Groudon. Will not be particularly useful because I mean we do have a full bench, but I think I might just hang on to my hand at this point, kind of. Well, will I be able to use Groudon at any point? I don't think so. Do I have a... Yes, I do. I do have a Fighting Energy in the discard pile. Let's go ahead and go for the Turbo Assault, Accelerate Energy onto the Gabite, and unfortunately this seems to have turned into a little bit more of a Garchomp live than a Garchomp Primal Groudon. But I mean, if I had room for a Primal Groudon, probably, I mean, I definitely would have, I maybe would have gone for it there, I'm not sure. But if one of our Pokemon gets knocked out, then we do have room for a Groudon, so I'm holding out hope that we can still get one going this match. But, I mean, like I said, Garchomp can take on teams all by itself. And, okay, so we do see an Enhanced Hammer. Not that big of a deal. I don't know why you'd run Enhanced Hammer in this type of speed deck. I mean, that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But, I mean, you know what? He's the one running it, not me. And we're in a... Okay, so we do see the Blacksmith for 2 energy, most likely. Oh, wow, he has 8... He has 8 energy in the discard pile. Man, he is relying completely on Blacksmith at this point. So he does go for the Heat Tackle. We will survive. Our opponent even takes damage, meaning we will be able to Turbo Assault for some more damage next turn. Let's just go ahead and play an energy onto the Gible, onto the bench. Go ahead and I think probably Karina for a... I kind of want to get another Garchomp going with the Karina, so I think that's what I'm going to go ahead and do right now. Let's go ahead and Karina. If I have... Let's see. I will grab a Garchomp for sure, and then I will probably grab a Rare Candy if I have one. Nope, I don't have a Rare Candy, so what I think I'm going to do is just go ahead and grab an Ultra Ball. Yeah, let's go ahead and grab an Ultra Ball to be able to get one more Garchomp up. Go for the Ultra Ball again, get rid of the Fighting Energy in the Fighting Stadium to grab another Garchomp. That way we can have another one going. and we will be able to knock out this Entei this turn. Let's just go ahead and retreat into this Garchomp on the bench, go for a Turbo Assault, knock out the Entei, and put the Strong Energy onto the Garchomp with the Muscle Band to be able to, I guess, like, bite off if I need to against a Charizard. And we even draw a Focus Sash, so we are in a great position right now. I apologize that this turned into more of a Garchomp live than a Primal Groudon live, but I mean, basically, when Primal Groudon works in this deck, you basically just have it right there and you're accelerating with Garchomp. I mean, this match, we just got such a perfect setup with Garchomps that I could not pass up the opportunity to get them going completely. I mean, it looks like we have one of our energies prized. Well, not one of our energies, one of our rare candies prized. And, oh man, our opponent even had the Team Flare item, so I mean, I guess Primal Groudon would have been useful in this matchup, but Garchomp is just as effective by setting up Pokemon on the bench, and we just go ahead and win right there with Garchomp. So, I mean, that is the deck. I mean, that's how it works. Primal Groudon is what you set up in the background if you need it. I mean, that's the big phrase that goes with any Garchomp deck, if you need it. Garchomp functions plenty well on its own, and the only reason I have paired other things with it is, I mean, other things that are strong, like Primal Groudon, need energy acceleration. Garchomp is able to provide that in spades, and Garchomp does struggle a little bit with things that it cannot OHKO, like strong non-EX Pokemon like Greninja Break and stuff like that. So having Primal Groudon there, just able to take one shot after one shot and clean up a game, is great to have, but Garchomp can function plenty well on its own. Wasn't even able to get a Primal Groudon set up, so I apologize for that, but you do see how the deck is supposed to work. So thank you for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.